The Cliffside Manor's ballroom shimmered under crystal chandeliers on September 14, 2025, the ocean beyond its arched windows glinting in the twilight's amber glow. I, Sophia Bennett, stood by a table draped in lilies, my camera poised to capture the fleeting joy of my brother Caleb's wedding to his bride Julia. At 27, I'd honed my craft as a freelance photographer, chasing moments of truth in fleeting glances and soft light, but tonight, my lens lingered on shadows. My mother Beatrice's taut posture, her fingers grazing her wineglass with a tremor. The reception, meant to bind our family in celebration, hummed with an undercurrent of unease, tied to Beatrice's distant gaze and my Aunt Vivian's sharp glances from the edge of the dance floor. 200 guests filled the space, their laughter weaving through the jazz band's velvet notes, a mosaic of velvet gowns and clinking flutes. Caleb, all heart and easy charm, spun Julia across the oak floor, her sapphire dress flaring like a comet's tail. I snapped a shot, the frame vivid but brittle, as if it might shatter under scrutiny. Beatrice, in a midnight blue gown, stood by the head table, adjusting a centerpiece with mechanical precision, her warmth dimmed by a tension I couldn't place. My father, Martin, mingled with cousins, his laughter bright but strained, his eyes flicking to Beatrice. Vivian, Beatrice's sister, leaned against a column, her auburn hair loose, her martini glass steady but her gaze piercing. The manor, perched on a coastal cliff, was our family's sanctuary. Summers chasing fireflies, winters by the stone hearth. Beatrice had always been our storyteller, her tales of family binding us, but lately she'd grown quiet, her responses sharp when I pressed about old photos or forgotten relatives. Vivian's recent visits, her whispered exchanges with Beatrice in the manor's library, had sparked my curiosity, but I'd dismissed it as wedding nerves. Tonight, I aimed to capture Caleb's joy, not chase doubts, yet my lens kept finding Beatrice's clenched fingers, Vivian's watchful eyes. Dinner unfolded with plates of roasted duck and fig compote, the air thick with toasts and chatter.
Ivo vetruxetables, my camera aquit vel, framing Julia's smile, Caleb's wink, and the flicker of Kentley light on silver.
Beatrice's gaze caught mine, a fleeting urgency in her eyes. Before she turned to Vivian, their exchange clipped and hushed. My cousin, Nora, Vivian's daughter, handed out favors, her cheer faltering when she noticed her mother's tension. Aunt Beatrice seems off, she whispered, passing me a ribbon-tied candle. I nodded, my instincts stirring, but returned to my shots, the moment slipping. The toasts began, Caleb rising first, his voice warm as he thanked Julia and the guests for sharing their day. The room erupted in cheers, glasses gleaming, but Beatrice's turn followed. She stood, her midnight blue gown catching the chandelier's glow, her microphone clipped to her neckline. She took a deep breath, her hands trembling, and raised her glass. To Caleb and Julia she began, her voice clear but edged with strain, whose love lights our family. The guests clapped, their smiles wide, but Beatrice's breath faltered, her fingers moving to the mic. With a slow, deliberate motion, she unclipped it, holding it close, her voice dropping to a raw whisper that silenced the ballroom. But tonight, she said, her eyes piercing Martin, we must face a hidden truth. Martin, tell them about Vivian, about the daughter you share, the one you've kept from us all. The words crashed like waves, the room freezing. Caleb's hand fell from Julia's, his face ashen. Julia's bouquet trembled, her eyes wide. Martin stood, his glass clattering, his expression a blend of shock and denial. Vivian stepped back, her martini splashing, her face flushed. Nora gasped, dropping her tray of candles, while guests whispered, their joy unraveling.
I lowered my camera, my pulse racing, and stepped forward, my voice sharp. Mom, wat daukata?
What are you saying? Beatrice turned to me, her face etched with anguish, the mic shaking in her hand. Your father and Vivian, she said, her voice breaking, had an affair years ago. They have a daughter, raised as Nora's sister, hidden from us. I found proof last week, a letter, a photo, in Martin's desk.
The revelation shook the room, gasps echoing.
Martin's voice cut through, sharp but unsteady.
Beatrice, you're wrong.
This is our son's wedding. Stop this. It's not wrong, she said, pulling a small envelope from her clutch, spilling a recent photo of a young woman, a letter in Martin's handwriting.
This is your daukata, Sophia, Caleb.
They've lied to you, to me, for years.
Caleb's voice rau, broke trug.
Dad, is this true? Martin shook his head, his jaw tight. It's a mistake. We'll talk privately. No, I said, grabbing the photo, a woman, early 20s, with Martin's eyes, taken recently outside a cafe. Who is she? Where is she now?
Vivians voice, schrill, pierced the silence. Beatrice, jure ruining everything.
It was a mistake, long ago. Beatrice's eyes burned. A mistake?
You hit a child, my husband's child. I won't protect your lie.
Guests slipped out, their murmurs sharp. Julia clung to Caleb, tears brimming, while Nora pulled at Vivian's arm, her voice shaking.
Mom, what's happening?
I held the photo, my anger surging. Dad, I said, my voice trembling, is this your daughter? He looked away, his silence heavy.
Beatrice's voice softened, tears falling.
I found the letter in his desk, Sophia. I wanted to protect you, but I couldn't stay silent.
The reception fright, the band halting.
I clutched the photo and letter, my mind racing. Martin's betrayal, Vivian's complicity, and a hidden sister had shattered the wedding's joy. I texted my friend, Margaret, a genealogist, asking to meet tomorrow, September 15th, to trace this daughter's identity. The dawn light spilled through my apartment's skylight on September 15, 2025, bathing my darkroom in a soft glow as I pinned up prints from Caleb's wedding. Julia's sapphire dress frozen mid-twirl, Caleb's smile fading, Beatrice's hand trembling on her unclipped microphone. Each frame held a shard of the moment our family fractured, when Beatrice revealed Martin and Vivian's hidden daughter, raised as Nora's sister. The photo of the young woman, her eyes mirroring Martin's, lay on my workbench beside his letter, its promise of a place in the family a raw wound. My camera had caught the betrayal, but now I needed truth. Margaret, my genealogist friend, was due to arrive, her expertise my lifeline to trace this mystery daughter. A text from Caleb buzzed on my phone. Meet me at the pier, 11 a.m. Found something in Dad's office. My pulse quickened, the weight of the photo urging me forward as I prepared to chase the secret Beatrice's toast had unveiled. Margaret knocked at 9:30 a.m., her satchel brimming with files, her glasses glinting with focus. She settled at my kitchen table, spreading out birth records and family charts. Let's see the photo and letter, she said, her voice crisp, pen poised. I handed her the recent snapshot of the young woman and Martin's letter, its ink stark against the page. Beatrice said this is Dad and Vivian's daughter, I said, adjusting a drying print, its shadows echoing my unease.
Reiset es Nora's sister.
I need her name, her story. Margaret studied the photo, her brow creasing. Early 20s, taken recently, maybe this year, based on her clothes. No name on the letter. When did Beatrice say the affair happened? She didn't, I said, pacing the hardwood floor, my camera strap dangling from a chair. But the letter's dated July 2025, so Dad's been in contact. Nora was blindsided, she didn't know. Margaret tapped her laptop, pulling up databases. I'll search birth records from the early 2000s, cross-referencing Vivian's name. If she's Nora's sister, there's a paper trail, hospital files, adoption papers, or a name change. Have you asked Martin or Vivian for details? Not yet, I said, my voice tight. Dad dodged me at the wedding, and Vivian ran off. Caleb's got something though, he's meeting me soon. Margaret nodded, her fingers flying across keys. I'll start with Vivian's history. Check Caleb's lead, it might give us a name. I sent her a scan of the letter, my fingers brushing the photo's edge, its mystery pulling me in like a half-developed negative. At 11 a.m., I met Caleb at the pier, the ocean's salt breeze sharp against my skin, waves crashing below. He stood by a weathered railing, his wedding tux replaced by a faded jacket, his face heavy with exhaustion. Julia wasn't with him, her absence a silent ache. Sophia, he said, pulling a small journal from his pocket, its pages creased. I found this in Dad's desk last night. It's got notes, meetings with someone named Hannah Reed, dated this summer. I took the journal, flipping to a page in Martin's scroll. Hannah Reed, July 12th, Cafe, discuss family matter.
My Brit kaukt, the Name a match for the woman in the photo.
Is this her? I asked, showing him the snapshot. Caleb's eyes widened, his jaw tightening. That's her. I saw Dad with her last month at a coffee shop downtown. She's young, maybe 23, looked nervous. He handed her a folder. My anger flared, my lens sharpening in my mind. A folder? Letters? Money? Why's he meeting her? I don't know, Caleb said, his voice raw, leaning against the railing. I asked him this morning. He said it's personal, not our business. But she's our sister, Sophia.
WHY hierher.
His pain mirrored mine, the wedding's joy now a blurred frame. I pocketed the journal, my resolve firm. We need to find Hannah Reid. Margaret's tracing her, maybe she's local. Back at my apartment, I called Beatrice, needing her clarity. She answered from the manor's porch, the sound of gulls faint in the background. Sophia, she said, her voice weary, I'm sorry for ruining the wedding. I found the letter and photo in Martin's desk last week. I couldn't hold it in.
WHY keep it secret?
I asked, adjusting a print, its shadows deepening. You blindsided us. I was protecting you, she said, her voice cracking. I thought Martin would confess, but seeing Vivian there, acting innocent, it broke me. Her anguish rang true, but gaps remained.
Wo's Hannah Reid?
I asked. Where is she? I don't know, Beatrice said. Martin said she's their daughter, raised by Vivian's friend. He's been meeting her, planning something. Planning what? I thanked her, my mind racing, and called Margaret, sharing Caleb's journal.
Hannah Reid, Isaid.
Martin's been meeting her. Check recent records, addresses, social media. Margaret's voice sparked with focus. Got a lead. Hannah Reid, 23, works at a library downtown. Her birth certificate lists Vivian as her mother, father unknown. I'm pulling her address.
My pulse raced, treat forming. I texted Nora, asking if she knew Hannah Reid.
Her reply was quick. Never heard of her, but Mom's been cagey. I'll ask. Vivian's role was key, her panic at the wedding a clue. I drove to Martin's office, a sleek building by the harbor, needing answers. He was at his desk, papers scattered, his face drawn. Sophia, he said, his voice cold, you're making this harder than it needs to be. Harder? I said, holding up the journal.
Hannah Reid. Your Daukata vis Vivian. WHY hierher.
His eyes flickered, but he recovered, his voice sharp.
It's not what you think.
Leave it. No, I said, my voice rising. You lied to us, to Mom.
I'm finding Hannah.
He stood, brushing past, his silence heavy. That evening, Margaret called with an address, Hannah's apartment, a short drive away. She's real, Margaret said. Social media shows her with Vivian, calling her Mom.
I'm digging deeper.
The wedding's toast had exposed a sister, and Martin's lies were fraying. I planned to find Hannah tomorrow, September 16th, to uncover her story and face the betrayal head-on. The fog draped Hannah Reid's apartment building like a soft veil on September 16, 2025, its faded brick facade softened by the dawn's gray light. The journal Caleb uncovered in Martin's office, scrawled with notes of meetings with Hannah, and Margaret's confirmation of her identity as Vivian's daughter had sharpened my focus, pulling me from the shattered frames of Caleb's wedding. Beatrice's unclipped microphone had revealed a hidden sister, raised as Nora's, and the photo, Hannah's face echoing Martin's hazel eyes, rested in my jacket pocket, a truth my camera couldn't fully capture. I stood at the building's entrance, my lens dangling from my neck, ready to meet this woman and unearth why Martin and Vivian had concealed her existence for so long, their betrayal a shadow over our family. I pressed the intercom, my breath steady despite the weight of unanswered questions. A woman's voice, soft but cautious, crackled through.
Wo's this?
Sophia Bennett, I said, fingers brushing my camera strap. I need to talk about Vivian and my father Martin. A long pause, then the door buzzed, granting entry. I climbed the narrow stairwell, the air heavy with the scent of worn wood and brewing coffee, each step creaking underfoot. Hannah opened the door to apartment 4C, her face a living echo of the photo, sharp cheekbones, Martin's eyes framed by dark, loose hair. She wore a library name tag pinned to a sweater, her expression wary but curious, gesturing me inside. Her apartment was a cozy clutter of bookshelves stuffed with novels, vinyl records stacked by a turntable, and a guitar leaning against a wall, its strings catching the morning light filtering through a cracked window. I settled on a frayed armchair, Hannah perching on a wooden stool across a scarred coffee table. Vivian called after the wedding, she said, her voice low, hands clasped tightly. Said things got messy. Why are you here? I placed the photo and Martin's letter on the table, the paper's edges sharp against the wood. Beatrice says you're Martin and Vivian's daughter, I said, my voice even, adjusting my camera's focus ring absently. Raised as Nora's sister, hidden from us.
VHY keep you secret.
Hannah's gaze dropped to the photo, her fingers twitching. I didn't know until last year, she said, her voice soft, eyes tracing the guitar's curve. Vivian told me she was my mom, that my dad was complicated. I grew up with her cousin, thinking she was my mother. Martin contacted me in May, said he wanted to meet to explain. My chest tightened, the betrayal a sharp lens flare in my mind. Explain what? Why hide you for 23 years? She leaned back, her eyes distant, fingers brushing a nearby book's spine. He said he and Vivian had a brief affair in 2001, a year after marrying Beatrice. They were young, reckless. Vivian gave me to her cousin to avoid destroying his marriage. He sent money over the years, checked in quietly, but didn't want you or Caleb to know. The timeline snapped into focus. 2001, when I was 3, Caleb barely won, Martin and Beatrice building a life.
VHY reach out now.
I asked, my voice sharp, leaning forward. What's changed? Hannah shrugged, her hands fidgeting with a loose thread on her sleeve. He said he felt guilty, wanted to make things right. Vivian pushed for it too, said I deserved to know my family. We met at a cafe in July, just talked about his life, your family. Her sincerity tugged at me, but Martin's silence burned. Talked about what?
I presset, my camera a silent witness on my lap.
Me? Caleb?
VHY keep us in the dark.
Nothing specific, she said, meeting my gaze, her voice soft but steady. Just that it was hard, that Beatrice wouldn't understand. I didn't want to hurt anyone. Her words felt honest, but gaps lingered like an underexposed frame. I left, promising to stay in touch, and stepped into the fog, the harbor's briny scent grounding me. I called Margaret, sharing Hannah's story, my boots clicking on the pavement. She's their daughter, I said, pausing by a street lamp, its glow muted.
Born 2002, reiset bei Vivians Cousin.
But why surface now?
What's Martin hiding?
Margaret's voice crackled with focus through the phone. I've got her birth record, Vivian's the mother, father unnamed. But Vivian's been emailing someone, not Martin, about family ties. I'm tracing the account. It's local, possibly a friend or relative. A new shadow flickered, my lens sharpening in my mind. I texted Caleb, arranging to meet at his apartment tonight. At 7 p.m., I arrived at his place, a small space cluttered with unopened wedding gifts, Julia's absence a quiet ache. He sat on the floor, flipping through an old photo album, its pages brittle. Found this in Dad's closet, he said, pointing to a 2002 snapshot of Vivian holding a baby, Hannah, with a note in Martin's handwriting, keep her safe.
I studied the image, my anger flaring like overexposed light.
He knew from the start, I said, setting my camera on the couch, its weight grounding me. Why bring her back now?
Caleb's eyes wäre red, his voice raw, fingers tracing the album's edge.
I asked him today. He said it's about guilt, fixing mistakes. But it feels like more, Sophia. I nodded, the photos weight heavy.
Margaret's tracing Vivians emails. Somione Else knows about Hannah.
I called Beatrice, needing her clarity, her voice answering from the manor's porch, waves crashing faintly. I confronted Vivian, she said, her tone heavy. She admitted the affair, said Hannah was a secret they buried. But there's another person involved, someone Martin's been meeting. Who? I asked, adjusting a drying print, its shadows curling like fog. She wouldn't say, Beatrice said, her voice breaking. But Martin's keeping something from me. I thanked her, my resolve a steady frame. I texted Margaret, urging her to dig deeper into Vivian's contact. Tomorrow, September 17th, I'd confront Vivian, demand the name of this mystery figure, and unravel the lie that had fractured our family at Caleb's wedding. The coastal fog lingered over the manor's gardens on September 17, 2025, as I stood outside Vivian's cottage, its whitewashed walls half hidden by climbing ivy. Hannah Reid's revelation yesterday, that she was Martin and Vivian's daughter, hidden since her 2002 birth, had sharpened the betrayal unveiled at Caleb's wedding, where Beatrice's unclipped microphone exposed a sister raised as Nora's. Margaret's lead on Vivian's emails to an unknown contact hinted at a deeper secret, someone else tied to Hannah's reappearance. My camera hung around my neck, its lens a quiet ally, ready to frame the truth as I prepared to confront Vivian and demand the identity of this mystery figure. I knocked on the cottage door, the scent of salt and damp earth grounding me. Vivian answered, her auburn hair loose, her face pale but defiant, her hands clutching a mug of tea. "Sophia," she said, her voice sharp, stepping aside.
Ik nee goed kam.
The living room was cluttered with framed photos. Nora as a child, Hannah's absence a silent gap. I sat on a faded sofa, Vivian perching on an armchair, her mug trembling. "I need answers," I said, my voice steady, setting the wedding photo of Hannah on the coffee table.
You and Martin hid Hannah for 23 years.
Why now? Who's the contact you've been emailing about her? Vivian's eyes flicked to the photo, her fingers tightening on the mug. "You don't understand," she said, her voice low, almost a whisper. "It was a mistake, back in 2001. Martin and we were young foolish. I gave Hannah to my cousin to protect his marriage to Beatrice. We thought it was best." My resolve hardened, the image of Caleb's shattered wedding flashing through my mind. "Best," I said, leaning forward, my camera's weight a steady anchor. "You lied to us, to Nora."
WHY bring Hannah back now.
She looked away, her gaze settling on a photo of Nora, her voice softening. "Martin felt guilty. Last year, he found Hannah, wanted to know her. I agreed. She's my daughter too. We didn't mean to hurt you." Her words carried a hint of truth, but her evasiveness sparked doubt. "Then who's the person you're emailing?"
I pressed, my voice sharp. Margaret found your messages. Family teas, Someone local.
"Who are they?"
Vivians Hans Schuk, tea spilling onto the table.
"It's private," she said, her voice faltering. "A friend, helping us reconnect with Hannah. It's not your business." "It's my family," I said, standing, my shadow falling across the photo.
You and Martin hid a sister from Emil and Caleb.
I deserve to know who else is involved." She stood too, her face flushed.
Jure dich ging ab Pein, Sophia.
"Let it go." I left, her refusal fueling my anger, the fog curling around me as I stepped outside. I called Margaret, my boots crunching on gravel. "Vivian's hiding someone," I said, my voice low. "She admitted the affair, Hannah's birth, but won't name the contact. Any luck with the emails?"
Margaret's voice buzzed through the phone.
"The account's tied to a woman, Ellen Carter, local therapist. She's been emailing Vivian since June, about reuniting family. I'm pulling her address, lives near the harbor."
Ellen Carter, A-Name, A-Triad.
I texted Caleb, asking to meet at his apartment tonight. At 7 p.m., I arrived at his place, the air thick with the scent of unopened wedding gifts, Julia's absence a quiet wound. Caleb sat at a small table, flipping through a box of old letters he'd found in Martin's study. "Look at this," he said, handing me a 2002 envelope, addressed to Vivian from Ellen Carter.
Inside, a note, Hannah's safe with my sister.
"Don't worry." I stared at the note, my anger sharpening like a focused lens. "Ellen Carter," I said, my voice low, setting my camera beside the box.
"She's the one Vivian's emailing."
"She knew about Hannah." Caleb's hands clenched, his voice raw.
WHY hide here?
"And why bring her back now?" I asked Dad today, he said it's about closure, but he's lying. I nodded, the letters weighed heavy.
Margaret's got Ellen's address.
"We need to talk to her." I called Beatrice, needing her perspective, her voice answering from the manor's kitchen, the clatter of pans faint. "I confronted Martin," she said, her tone heavy. He admitted knowing Ellen, said she helped with Hannah's adoption. But he's hiding something, someone else. Who? I asked, adjusting a print on my table, its shadows shifting like the fog outside. He wouldn't say, Beatrice said, her voice breaking. But Ellen knows more. She's been in touch with Vivian. I thanked her, my focus narrowing. I called Margaret, urging her to dig deeper into Ellen Carter's role. She's a therapist, Margaret said. Records show she counseled Vivian in 2001, after the affair. Might have mediated Hannah's adoption. The pieces were aligning, but gaps remained. I drove to Nora's apartment, needing her perspective. She answered, her face pale, her eyes red from crying. Sophia, she said, letting me in, I didn't know about Hannah. Mom never said anything. I showed her the 2002 letter, my voice soft.
Ellen Carter Knee.
She's been helping your mom and Martin. Do you know her? Nora shook her head, her hands trembling. No, but Mom's been secretive, taking calls late at night. I thought it was about the wedding. Her pain echoed mine, the wedding's joy now a blurred negative. I left, promising to keep her updated, and called Margaret again, confirming Ellen's address. Tomorrow, September 18th, I'd confront Ellen Carter, demand answers about her role in hiding Hannah. The toast had exposed a sister, and Martin's lies were fraying, but Ellen's shadow loomed, pulling me deeper into the truth. The harbor's mist curled through the streets on September 18, 2025, as I approached Ellen Carter's therapy office, its frosted glass door reflecting the morning's pale light. Vivian's refusal yesterday to name the mystery contact in her emails, coupled with Margaret's discovery that Ellen, a therapist, had mediated Hannah's adoption in 2002, had narrowed my focus to this moment. Beatrice's unclipped microphone at Caleb's wedding had exposed Hannah as Martin and Vivian's hidden daughter, shattering our family, and Ellen's role as their confidant held the key to why they'd buried her existence. My camera hung around my neck, its lens a silent witness, ready to frame the truth as I prepared to confront Ellen and unravel the final threads of Martin's betrayal. I entered the office, the air heavy with lavender and paper, and found Ellen behind a desk, her silver hair pulled back, her eyes wary but calm. Sophia Bennett, she said, rising, her voice measured.
Vivian, seit you mich kam. Sit.
I settled in a plush chair, Ellen across from me, a notepad untouched on her desk. I know about Hannah Reid, I said, placing the 2002 letter from Ellen to Vivian on the table, its ink faded but clear. You helped Vivian and Martin hide her. Why? And who else knows? Ellen's fingers paused on the notepad, her gaze steady. I counseled Vivian in 2001, after her affair with Martin, she said, her voice soft. She was pregnant, scared. They decided to give Hannah to Vivian's cousin to protect Martin's marriage. I facilitated the adoption, kept it quiet. My breath caught, the weight of their choice sharp. Why keep it from us for 23 years?
WHY bring Hannah back now. Ellen leaned back, her eyes tracing the windows mist. Martin skeeled grey over time.
Last year, he found Hannah, wanted to know her. Vivian agreed, but they feared Beatrice's reaction. I mediated their meetings, advised discretion.
Diskretion.
I said, my voice steady, adjusting my camera's strap.
Telitu me, Caleb, Beatrice.
Who else is involved?
Vivians emails mention, family teas, wo's that?
Ellen hesitated, her hands folding. That's me, she said, her voice low. Vivian confided in me, asked for guidance. I've been emailing her, helping navigate Hannah's return.
No von Else.
Her admission felt incomplete, a half-exposed frame. Then why the secrecy?
I pressed, leaning forward.
Why not tell us? Vivian was ashamed, Ellen said, her eyes meeting mine.
Martin feared losing you, Caleb, Beatrice.
They thought silence was kinder.
Kinder?
The wedding's shattered joy flashed through my mind. I left, promising to follow up, and called Margaret, my steps quick on the damp pavement. Ellen's the contact, I said, my voice low. She helped hide Hannah, but it feels like she's holding back. Margaret's voice crackled with focus. I found more. Vivian's cousin, Patricia, who raised Hannah, lives nearby. She's been in touch with Martin recently, emails about family closure. I've got her address.
Patricia, a new lead.
I texted Caleb, arranging to meet at the manor tonight. At 7 p.m., I arrived, the mansion's windows glowing against the fog. Beatrice was in the dining room, the table bare since the wedding's chaos, her hands clasped around a coffee mug. Caleb sat beside her, his face drawn, holding a folder of old photos. Martin was absent, his silence a weight. Sophia, Beatrice said, her voice heavy, setting down her mug. I talked to Martin. He admitted meeting Patricia, said it's about Hannah, making amends. Amends. Caleb said, his voice raw, flipping open the folder to a 2003 photo of Hannah as a toddler, Vivian smiling beside her. He hid our sister. Why now? I showed them Ellen's letter, my camera resting on the table. Ellen mediated the adoption, I said.
Patricia reiset Hannah.
They're all connected, but Martin's still hiding something. Beatrice's eyes brimmed, her voice soft. He said he's protecting us, but it's lies. Patricia knows more. She was at the adoption. I nodded, the photo's clarity sharpening my focus. We need to talk to Patricia. I called Margaret, confirming Patricia's address.
Tomorrow, September 2019, wird konfront her.
But first, I drove to Vivian's cottage, needing her truth. She answered, her face weary, her hands clutching a scarf. Sophia, she said, stepping aside, I told you everything. Not everything, I said, holding up the 2003 photo.
Patricia reiset Hannah.
You've been emailing her about closure.
What's Martin planning?
Vivian's scarf slipped, her voice trembling. He wants Hannah in the family, but Beatrice. It's complicated. Patricia helped us decide.
Decide wat? I presset, my voice sharp, the cameras vet grounding me.
To bring her back, she said, tears falling. But Martin's scared of losing you. Her words rang hollow, a partial truth. I left, the fog thicker now, and called Caleb, planning to meet Patricia tomorrow. At 9 p.m., Margaret sent a bombshell. Patricia's emails mentioned a meeting with Martin and a lawyer, discussing Hannah's future. I forwarded it to Beatrice, my resolve firm. The wedding's toast had unveiled a sister, and Martin's lies were crumbling. On September 19th, we met Patricia, a quiet woman in her 60s, at her seaside bungalow. She confirmed Hannah's adoption, her voice soft. Martin and Vivian wanted her safe, she said, showing us a 2002 adoption file, naming Hannah as Vivian's daughter, Martin unnamed. He's been meeting me, planning to tell you, but feared Beatrice's pain. Why now? I asked, my voice steady, camera capturing her weathered face. Guilt, she said. He wanted Hannah to know you, Caleb.
The truth landet, Martins Schemme, Vivians 4, Ellens Mediation.
I confronted Martin that evening, showing him the file. He broke, confessing the affair, his decades of silence to protect Beatrice. I wanted to fix it, he said, tears falling. Hannah deserves a family. You broke ours, I said, my voice calm but firm. Beatrice filed for separation, her trust shattered. Vivian apologized to Nora, their bond strained but healing. Caleb and Julia began counseling, their love tested but enduring. I helped Hannah meet Caleb, their connection tentative but growing. By October 2025, I stood in my darkroom, prints of Hannah's smile pinned up, a new frame forming. The wedding's toast had exposed a wound, but I chased the truth, ensuring Martin and Vivian faced their lies. Our family, fractured, was rebuilding, stronger for the honesty I'd demanded.